Hey guys, so Rem will be coming in less than 24 hours and I have been really excited waiting for her to debut, basically her BT to debut in DFFOO. So let's jump right in and discuss, first of all, Rem FR. Is it good as a main FR? Well, technically I don't really think so because on party's turn it's only 60%. But on her turn, it is 80, but if she use S1 or S2 which is swap turn, then it can goes up to 110. So do note that S1 and S2, they are skills that are fast charging, which means they are buff abilities, so they can quickly charge the gauge, but they do not function similarly as other buff ability when it comes to supercharging of the HP damage bonus. Because if you compare it to like Aerith is unconditional 50%, but Rem is only 30%. So this reason is because she have a follow-up attack. So a lot of support unit that have a buff ability, but with a follow-up attack, they only get 30% supercharging capability instead of 50%. So that is something to take note on. I do think that her FR generally is better used of as an echo because it has the turn manipulation utility, which is very useful to set up the party. So for example, if you are using a certain FR and then the last turn you want that specific DPS unit to be next, so you can enter their BT right away. So in that case, Rem can just easily pull them up, right? Or like if you want to save up some echoes to use it after the BT phase, then again, Rem can easily pull characters here and there, so you can actually manipulate everything easier. And her FR as an echo, technically not just as an echo, but when you use it, you can also choose herself to swap turns to, so that does make it become an instant turn ability. So to me, it's a very tactical FR to have, especially during force time. So not necessary, not necessary that since it can't be used as a main FR, that it is a bad FR. So I still think it's a good FR, so I'm giving it a score of 4.5. So what about a BT? Well, if you are just using the turn manipulation utility of hers to set up your team, probably if you have planned your team correctly, like the turn order is right, or you can just use a range call at the end, to manipulate some turn, then you don't technically need Rem to do that. So I would say if you do not have a BT, it will be unlikely that you bring her in the party. But that doesn't mean she doesn't work. If you want to, she still works. So I would say the BT, yes, if you really want to use her often, then you should get her BT. Okay, one of the weaknesses is that her BT is only 6 turn. So if you're playing around with her turn manipulation, she will eventually take quite a lot of turns, and that 6 turn can be quite short. And if you use her as a support, where your party, like another DPS, going to enter their BT phase, then most of the utility that her BT provide won't technically be that useful. So what are those utility? First, she brings party immortality. So when her BT is up and active, nobody can get KO. So if you have used Ardeen before, or Zac, if you use Ardeen's LD, you will notice that his HP is now kind of like blinking, but it is not there. So technically any damage dealt to Ardeen will not be considered as HP damage dealt or received. So that is what Rem gonna do for the entire party. Okay, so nobody will die. But then again, if you enter a character's BT phase, then it's the same thing because the enemy can attack you during the BT phase, but they can attack you after. So if you can't rush down an enemy, then this BT effect that grants party immortality will be very useful. Else, depending on how you run it, it may not be as relevant as you think it should be. But if you use it for like casual, you don't enter the specific BT phase and rush the enemy down, then Rem's BT party immortality is very good. Now another of her niche is that every time she takes a turn when her BT effect is up, she will charge everyone's EX, including herself. So to me, this is also very unique. Nobody has that. So I do find it to be a very good utility, especially you have characters that really rely on EX. Like if you party with Anacro, then she can continuously nuke people with the bazooka EX while deleting all the enemy's turn. So that could be interesting. And moreover, most of the characters EX are actually the hardest hitting ability. So you can continuously spam the best ability that you have, as long as Rem's BT is active. So with that many utility that she provides through her BT effect, I do really consider that is a good BT to have. So I'm giving it a score of 4.5 over 5. So Rem's Kit. So what is she? So she has extremely good support aura, like almost 100% attack up, almost 100% max breathe up, very high HP damage up, especially when her magical projection buff is active on one specific character. So the buff is only one turn, but if assuming that that specific unit is not going to take a turn and they are doing off turn, then that buff going to be there forever and they will be doing a lot of damage. So you can actually do that if you use like S1 on because it always gives the buff to the player to the next of her. So if you use Cure or AA and then Rem does a follow-up, she will buff the character to the next, but won't be giving them turn. So then you can swap over another character to prevent them from taking a turn, then you can maintain the buff there. So for example, if you have Noctis, then you give the buff to Noctis and then you swap over to, let's say, Baltier as a DPS, then Noctis will have the buff while always doing follow-up attack. So another role of her is turn manipulation. So basically a very tactical advantage that we have here. So we can arrange the turn order as we like. Then defense, because now her BT prevents the party from dying. So it's a really, really good defensive utility that we have. Also, I think she can function really well as a DPS as well. Her EX now instantly charged with the BT effect up, and her EX is 4 HP dumps full damage to 2 enemies, so that's a total of 8 HP dumps. Then she do follow-up attack, that is 4 split damage HP dumps as well, so total of 8 HP dumps per enemy and 16. That is very consistent and actually really good damage overall. So I do think that she can work as a DPS, but not necessary that you have to replace, like you don't use Baltier or you don't use Rex or any other DPS anymore, because obviously as a support unit, she's not going to out damage your top tier DPS units. Okay, so when do you use Rem? Basically, if you want to, like let's say if you want to chain a certain echo, either to build up the HP damage bonus or to use it after BT for echo spam, then Rem is a very good unit to arrange your turn order and stuff like that. And her swap turn is very high, has very high turn rate, so she can continuously pull and then she will jump turn. So in that case, you kind of like prevents the enemy from taking turn. So that is actually a very interesting gimmick to do for no boss turn. And her BT is also very good to fast charge. Because they have S1, S2, both of them has the capability to quickly charge the gauge, and LD replenish both S1 and S2. So in that case, you can have 4 fast charging skills. So let's say if you're fighting an enemy and you do not have the FR to cancel their weakness, then you can use Rem's BT to quickly charge up the gauge and enter FR before the enemies activate theirs. And nevertheless, because Rem is a very good unit to play without BT because of the turn manipulation and everything like that, so you can use her BT early on. Or like I mentioned, you can also use her BT as damage because her damage is pretty solid, especially if you know how to abuse the FR cancelling exploit. That will actually make it, probably makes her overall HP damage to be like 9 or 10, so total about 20 against 2 enemies. And One thing to mention also in the future, crystal passive A6 that increases HP damage limit by 20% has a form of HP poison that will take into account for HP requirement. So if Rem is making the whole party immortal, then it doesn't count towards HP requirement. So she's one of the enabler to use crystal passive A6 for more damage. So when to use Rem? Well, technically she's kind of like you can use her in a lot of situations. I don't mean she's food, but she's good in most cases except for often oriented teams. So like if you're running a team with all the speed passive removed, then she probably won't function so well because she doesn't have an off-turn attack, and a lot of her attack is high turn rate, so she will jump around. But if you do want to use her in that team, then do just spam her LD. I do believe her LD is not high turn rate, and the immortality that she provides to the team does really help out for off-turn teams. So it is not food, but she's not food, she's good. Alright, so overall score, I give her a 9/10, but personally because I really like to manipulate turns, you know, do all kind of funky stuff, so she will be very valuable in my team comp, so I give her a 10/10. Yes, she can be a little bit tricky if you want to optimize your team due to all the turn manipulation and her jumping turn. So it may not be very appealing to some of the people. So I do know, which is why I give her a 9/10, because it can be a little bit difficult if you want to optimize everything. So that's that. So anyway, I will definitely be pulling for her. I already have her kit, just her FR I need it. The BT, I can token it if I want to. So I'm just aiming for her FR, so I'll be going in with tickets. So good luck with your pulls tomorrow and have fun.